Welcome to Live Unashamed, where we pause the show and invite members of our team to talk vulnerably about their own recovery, things they're learning, the resources that are actually working, and what it truly means to live unashamed.
I do feel like Volvo is an underrated brand.
Totally, they're sweet.
But no, when did someone roll up to an intersection and you were like, damn, that Volvo.
Sweet Volvo, man.
Dude, I just made it big, dude. I just like doing commercial real estate. Jared's like sitting back here like, yo, dude, I just closed this huge deal.
I'm gonna go buy me a Volvo.
Buy me a Volvo.
Go buy me a Volvo now.
Dude,
Like, I'm gonna go buy me a
tell me the
song.
last rap song where they're like rolling up to the club in my Volvo. But we rented one in Hawaii for our program, and James and I were like, "This is a great car."
Yeah.
A true luxury
They're super
vessel.
nice.
It was.
It was super nice. It was super nice.
Yeah. Shout out Volvo. Maybe they'll give us a new
Shout
car.
out,
or
yeah.
something.
Send us a car. 'Cause
Yeah.
if you do, we'll drive it.
Do more podcasts.
We'll keep talking
Watch, I
about
mention
it.
you.
I bet you
Every
Craig
podcast
drives a Volvo.
with 24s on it.
Yeah. He's rolling up to JCW's in his Volvo, getting himself some cheese fries.
Bumping it. Dear Christian rap, please put the word Volvo in a song.
Yeah.
Challenge accepted. Chris and James, we're going to touch on a topic that feels like a waste of time, but is one of the biggest mistakes that people make in recovery. I think we can be helpful.
Sweet.
I think we can offer hope.
Is that what we do on this podcast?
Oh my gosh.
I just making sure.
He was trying to figure out the Hulk of Hope and how that all tied in. Penny drops. There we are.
Well, whatever. I drive a truck, not a Volvo. I shouldn't listen to you. Reaching out.
Reaching out.
What's the first thing you're supposed to do if you are tempted to sexually act out?
Chris?
Reach out.
Reach out, reach out, reach out, reach out. Real talk. How many times has that one sounded like a stupid idea, and how many times has it been a complete waste of time?
And why is it so damn hard?
Amen.
Reaching out is one of the biggest things I did in the beginning to get my sobriety.
That's the lifeline, man.
Mm-hmm.
Finally humbling myself to call, not after I acted out, but to call before.
Mm-hmm.
And what was awesome is just what I noticed is that the temptation would go away even if they didn't answer the phone.
Mm-hmm.
I would leave a message. I would send them a text. If I didn't get one guy and it was still going, the temptation was still going, I would jump to the next one until I got somebody. And I'm like, I got to get a hold of somebody because this is big.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I did that, the power, like the empowerment that I felt and the power I got from that and the invigoration was like, I just overcame something huge for me.
Yeah.
I've been on the receiving end of one of those reach out calls from Chris.
And for me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and from you. But, like for Chris, like, the dude 16 years deep, like, I got one of those calls.
Mm.
And I haven't known Chris for 16
We'll brag
years.
about it.
I'm just like, this is a guy who walks the walk. Like, even though right at 16 years in, and this was probably about 5 years ago, right?
Yeah. 2000
is when you just started in
2019.
Yeah, and all that stuff.
2019.
Oh, okay, so yeah, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like he's like,
nothing happened in my life.
Like,
in 2019.
boom, like it came up, and he. I don't know if I was the first person he called, but
Oh,
like,
when it
was
showed
the
up at
first
work.
yeah, when it
Porn
showed
hit
up
you
at work,
yeah.
Yep.
and like first thing he did, he hit shut off and picked up the phone and I think called me, and I was like,
Because it was in your sales software, right?
Yeah, it was inside
bugged
the
in
actual
there.
Salesforce
Yeah.
is the name of the software.
Yep,
It
yep.
was like clicking on the business the company link. It doesn't show like a porn site. It said like whatever
Company link,
the
yeah.
company link
ABC Supply Company
.com, right?
Yeah.
And you click on it, and I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I wanted to go back. Ooh, absolutely, I wanted to go back and look at it again.
Yeah.
And your first line of defense was
Reaching out.
So, why is reaching out so hard? To answer Chris's question, I would make the argument because isolation. In order for us to act out, meaning act outside of our values, you got to justify it, right?
Yeah.
So, like,
Right.
if I'm just gonna like, I don't know, do something. If I'm gonna burn this building down right now, I first have to get to a place where I can justify burning it down because it's outside my values, right?
Well, I think for me,
If I'm gonna leave here and go look at porn or hire
Sure.
a prostitute, right now I don't have the capacity in me right now to go act out sitting here with the two of you. Like 100%, it can't happen. So in order for me to do that, I'd have to have a middle stage there, where I isolate and then I justify. Well, we were recording all night and I'm tired. Justify. So I now deserve, right? You know, whatever, right? And so, to me, reaching out is you're breaking the isolation,
Mm-hmm.
which is why it's hard.
Well, and for me, the reaching out is hard because I'm actually, as Chris says all the time, he's like, I'm still actively negotiating with my addiction. Right?
No,
And
I don't say I actively negotiate with my addiction.
No, I'm saying when I
Oh,
when,
that
when
you
I,
were. Yeah. Yeah,
right. At times
misunderstood.
the times when I'm
It's not all about you.
not reaching out, it's because I'm still actively negotiating with my addiction at that moment. I'm still just right.
Right.
And that's why I'm not reaching out, because I'm in negotiation stage. Am I going to do this or am I not? And then it's like, well, I know that if I don't reach out, but then I've made my choice. Boom, I'm going to head down that thing. And so basically, like, not reaching out is I pretend like I'm not making a choice when really I am.
Hey, that's another podcast that we should do. Negotiating with my addiction.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So, okay, whatever. I'm bored now. So, what's the secret sauce?
What else is new?
What's the secret sauce?
Well, I would say reaching out isn't just making a call to someone.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell my clients that all the time. It is doing something different to break free of the addiction cycle.
Yeah.
Yes.
And whether that is reaching out and making a call.
But it's got to be connecting with another person.
Right.
I was just going to go there. To me, reaching
However
out
you do that,
is creating actually connection.
yes.
Because that's usually actually what I need is connection.
Right.
I don't need to make the call. I don't need to like chat with somebody. I actually, part of the reason why I might be looking at porn is I'm lacking a sense of connection. I'm lacking a sense of connection to self, right? Like I'm becoming disembodied in a way.
Right. Right. So what's the secret sauce?
To reaching out.
If you want to do recovery, reach out. Get a list of guys from whatever meeting you go to and start calling.
No, well,
Boom,
the
there
secret
you go.
sauce
That's
is
reaching out.
For me, the secret sauce is it's the right people. It's the people that I know that I can talk to and call and that will connect with me and will see me, hear me, love me, and not only like
what makes someone the right person? Who do you choose?
I have a different take on that too.
Who do you choose?
My take on it is reaching out to someone. They don't even need to know what you're going through. Like I tell clients, look, you can call your mom and just have a conversation with your mom. You're connecting with them.
Hi,
They don't
Mom.
need
I'm
to know.
negotiating about looking at porn right now.
Right.
And I didn't know
like
who
you're
to
not
call.
gonna want to call your mom and be like, hey, guess what? You
Yeah.
know. So it's just making that effort of breaking that addiction cycle and being like, I got to connect with someone.
Right.
They don't need to know what you're going through right then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna get more in James's camp. I think that can work in a pinch. You know what I mean? Like I think that can work.
Yeah.
Of like just not being alone in even if they don't fully know what's going on.
Just to break your isolation.
Just to break the isolation.
Right.
I'm not
and
saying
if,
what
and
you're
if
saying
it's still
can't
activated,
work.
then find someone that you're like,
I don't think that's
connect.
the secret sauce. I think so. When I talk about connection with people, I talk about like a wire between the two of us. So I say, okay, so James and I have a wire between us. So first, is there a wire, right? And I think that's what people think connection is. the wire being established.
Mm.
I would argue that's not connection. I would argue that connection is how much electricity is in the wire.
Yes.
And so to me, what makes the reaching out powerful is they know your history, meaning they know your story.
Mm-hmm.
So vulnerability and story has been shared between you and whoever it is you're talking to.
Yep.
And there's a proactiveness to the relationship.
Yeah.
So James, this is what everyone doesn't know. This is me and James. James could go a week with me and has, where I just talk about my life the entire time and he says nothing. And even with that, if I just stopped calling you and you just didn't see me, there is a short window of time frame where you would come find me.
Correct.
Because we would know something is off.
Because you would know something is off. That is the electricity in the wire. So I think when you have a high amount of electricity, it will force you, like accountability to self, force you to reach out. So when people are
I
like,
like that.
it's hard to reach out, I'm like, well, yeah, because there's no electricity in these wires. There's cobwebs.
Mm-hmm.
So of course it's going to be
Because
hard
you
to
haven't
reach
fostered
out.
a relationship.
Yeah, so to me, the key to reaching out happens before the intersection of temptation or lust or whatever words we want to use. It's, do you have enough rapport and relationship for it to be safe to make that call?
And again, this is all part of a healthy lifestyle. It's having deep connecting friendships and relationships in your life.
Right.
Well, that was the whole reason why I called James in 2019. We had that relationship, and I'm like, he knows and understands what I'm going through. So I knew I could call him and be like, hey, this is what I got going on, and we can have a conversation about it.
Well, I remember when we showed up, so last time I acted out was 2019, January 2019, right, with another woman. And I remember I came, we met at you were at Southtown Mall.
Yeah, we just ran into each other.
And no, I had called you, and you were there.
Oh.
And
yeah.
and because it's close to where I live, it's like, I'm gonna come talk to you. And I remember because of the electricity in the wire, it was so I had this big disclosure, and and it was. I remember being like, this was just got so normalized, but that's because of the electricity it's because the work put into the relationship prior to that moment of crisis, or you had a crisis last night with Autumn, right?
Right.
And it's like you instantly had that electricity in the wire around you. So had you had bigger needs, glad everything ended up kind of being okay,
Right.
and you didn't need a lot of support. But had you needed it, the reach out was easy because of the pre-existing relationship.
Totally.
I think that's where people think you make the relationship in the reach out moments, and I would say wrong. You bear the fruit of the relationships you have made in
Well
the
said.
reach out moment.
Yeah,
Well
totally.
said. Yeah.
So if your reach out sucks, it's because you have the work needs to get put into relationships. And
So how do they do that?
well, I always argue everyone has to build their own community. Everyone's always
Right.
looking for a community play. And it hit me. Shout out to Danny McDowell. We're up at boot camp, and he's like, Band of Brothers meeting. So everyone comes to boot camp, and they're like, this is amazing. What do we do from here? And they're like, have a Band of Brothers meeting where you all go on fishing trips together, and you all hang out and do like weekly meetings, right? Like a support group or whatever. And I remember there's one in Salt Lake County, and they've been meeting forever. Danny and all those guys.
Right.
And Danny stands on stage, and we're kindred spirits. He stands on stage. He grabs the mic. He's like, look, I'm not trying to be this way. Y'all can come to the Salt Lake meeting, but like, we've been doing stuff together for years. And like, guys come once or twice, and then because we have these deep existing relationships, wires, electricity,
Right.
they feel like they don't fit in. And
They go
That's
find somewhere
it.
where they do.
Because guess what? You don't.
because you don't. And,
Right.
and that's what I realized. I'm like, all these guys have been through World War One. This is an I'm like, all these guys have been through World War One. So I go sit with them at the chow hall, and I'm like, right? And they're like, yeah, whatever. And then they start telling a bunch of inside jokes about World War Ones, and then they say the special prayer for their friend Johnny, who died in the trench, who I never met, and the electricity isn't for him. And then it hit me. I was like, oh, what Danny's telling me is I just need to get 8 guys here who live in Salt Lake and do my own Band of Brothers. So I did. And we met in my basement for a year every weekend. And so to me, I think that is, you have to build your own.
Totally.
I would argue me and everyone else I know in recovery build their own. I happen to do it through creating a podcast, which is now a nonprofit, called Unashamed, Unafraid. And I said, hey, Chris, Hook of Hope, James, right, who I met through her heart, do you guys want to hang out and do
assistant
this thing?
to the president.
Assistant to the president, right? Or general. That was my way of saying I want to give people a reason to connect with me, and I think that's the mistake people make. Is they're like, well, what group can I go to where they're all going to connect with me? And I'm like, no, wrong. How are you going to add value to people? Give people a reason. Why would they want to connect with you, right? Like all of the 7 habits and how to make friends and influence people and all that's where all of that comes into play. Like, it's your job to build relationships and make it happen.
Be proactive. Yes.
Well, I think you're meeting your needs by doing that, right? Because for the belonging. Well, if you don't feel like you belong at church because nobody's coming up to you, then go up to people.
Right.
Create the relationships
Invite them all
that you
over
want
for
to have.
dinner.
It's like I'm in my church and with a bunch of men, and I'm like, hey, I want to create connection. So what do? Hey, everybody's welcome to come to my house for fire.
Yep.
Let's create connection.
Yeah, don't sit on the back row and then call everyone judgmental because they didn't come up and talk to you.
Right. If you don't fit in your 12-step group that you've been going to, or you go
take
for
more
a few
choice
times.
and ownership.
Take more choice and ownership. If you want the community thing, and if you don't have community, you're not going to make it. Let's just shoot straight.
Totally.
Recovery.
And I just want to say, like, of the introverts sitting between the 2 extroverts, like, I just want to talk to my fellow introverts. Like, get it. Like, it's hard.
Chris and I will hold silence as you guys have this.
It might be hard to reach out and to the guy who wants to sit in the back row and just would love it if people would just come to me. So for me, I found extroverts on purpose because I knew that they would talk and I didn't have to. So I was like, find me an extrovert or two and let me work on developing a friendship with them with my special introvert skill sets of digging deep and asking questions that they would love to answer, and that I would love to hear, that I would love to get curious and know about them. And they will talk all day long, and it will create electricity in the wire. Because after Steve's done talking for a week straight, he will ask you, tell me, right, this literally happened. We did this for like 3 months where, right, Steve called and talked and talked and talked and talked. And then finally at a certain point he goes, well, we know all the things there is to know about Steve Shields, and we know nothing about James Wilhite. So I'm done talking. Go, right, in Steve fashion. So, like, if you're, as a fellow introvert, right, just for me, the thing that worked for me was reach out to the extroverts, right? And or 1 or 2.
That's a great point.
That, that will help you as the introvert that might be a little uncomfortable carrying a conversation or kind of knowing where to go next with that or whatever, right? To do that.
Well, and what I want to say is they're all as afraid as you are.
Right.
If you think you're walking into your church and all these guys have tons of great friends and you're the only one who doesn't have one, that's a joke, to quote my friend NF. No, none of them have friends. They all want you. They all want and need you. Like, you are needed and wanted. There are so many people who need the community you have to offer.
Yep.
There's a need.
Yeah, there is.
And reach out, and a bunch of them, that's the other thing I'm going to say. Warning label. If you choose to build community and reach out, majority of people aren't going to give a flying F that you're doing it.
Yep, they won't accept your invitation the first or second or third time.
Or 100th time.
Yeah.
As an extrovert party thrower, I've learned, and I roll deep in community, I'm like, hey, if I want Chris to come to a party of mine, I have to invite him 4 different times, and I have to know that 2 to 4 out of 10 Chris's will actually show up. So if you want to have a party at your house with 20 people, you have to invite 50. And that's the reality of building community and connection.
Yeah.
And so, you had to spin through a pile of extroverts till you found the 2 best ones.
And if nobody shows up, like, when I invite people to my house for the fires, I'm like, just show up. And if you bring your wife with you, great, I don't care. If you bring your kids with you, I don't care. And if they don't show up, I'm like, I still don't care, because that's time for me to just reflect on myself.
Well, how did the 12-step start? How did the 12-step start? You know the story. Dr. Bob and Bill W.
Sitting around a campfire.
No, they're sitting there, and he says, hey, go get all these guys to come to this meeting. So on a Sunday, Bill W., Dr. Bob sends them out in the world. Bill W. goes from bar to bar to bar and says, everyone, hey, come tonight to this meeting, come tonight to this meeting, come this night to the meeting. He comes back to the church, and guess how many people came?
0.
0, nobody. And he's like, oh, Dr. Bob, this was a waste of time, and no one came. And what did Dr. Bob say back to him?
I'm still going to do it.
No, he said, but you didn't drink today.
Huh.
And so, although the early start, and because you got to plant seeds to bear fruit later, right? I didn't start Unashamed, and all of a sudden everyone wanted to be my friend overnight, and all these cool people around me. It was a labor for a while, and I had people, guy who started it with me doesn't even want his name on the website saying he started with me.
Right.
Right. So I'm just saying, like, there's stuff, right? But you will feel the connection start to happen. You will feel the growth start to happen as you start to put it out there. It will build your confidence. It will build. So, P.S., it's a tough road. A bunch of people are going to reject you and not connect. But if you stay with it, the fruits are huge, because now I couldn't hide if I wanted to. I literally couldn't. If I was like, screw recovery, I'm out of here. I could not do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's difficult. Do it. Build some recovery. Community. Reach out. Send us an email. We'll give you some ideas. So if you're not sure who to reach out to or how, email James. James wants all the emails now.
No.
James, the introvert, wants to tell you how to build community. Email James at unashamedandunafraid.com.
Or Chris.
And it's
or
James.
Or
James at unashamedandunafraid.com. Follow us on social media at unashamedandunafraid. Visit us
Watch us on
Connect.
YouTube.
Watch it on YouTube, and continue to live
Unashamed.